request all our esteemed guests and speakers to kindly take their seats on the dais as we commence the program. Justice Sanjay Karol ji, Justice Honorable Retired Justice Nagesh ji, Saji Narayanan ji, Bharat ji, S. Mallesam ji, Atul Sopti ji, Yukti Otsu ji, Vinay Navre sir. Dr. Ambedkar's contribution to labor welfare in India remains both foundational and transformative. As the labor member of the Viceroy's Executive Council, he was instrumental in many reforms, and his efforts laid the cornerstone of a progressive and humane labor law system in India. Samarasta Diwas thus serves as a reminder that true harmony in society is achieved not merely through ideals, but through concrete measures that ensure justice and opportunity for all. It is therefore most befitting that we gather here today not only to honor his legacy, but also to carry forward through the release of a significant body of work on the new labor codes, a subject that lies at the very heart of Ambedkar's vision for an equitable society. Today, we celebrate the release of an important set of books covering the new labor codes reflecting the continuing evolution of labor jurisprudence in India. We are truly honored by the gracious presence of eminent personalities from judiciary, legal fraternity, labor organizations, international institutions who have joined us for this meaningful occasion. To invoke divine blessings, I request our distinguished guests to kindly proceed with the ceremonial lighting of the lamp. Yes, please. Now I request everyone to kindly rise for the national song Vande Mataram.
सुफलां मातरं वन्दे मातरं श्यामलां सरलां सुस्मितां भूषितां धरणीं भरणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरम्।
We also acknowledge the presence of senior Karyakartas amongst the gathering. Sri Hariji, Uttar Kshetra Sangatna Mantri. Santosh ji, Joint General Secretary, Adhivakta Parishad. Joydeep ji, National Coordinator, Bharati Bhasha Abhiyan. We now move to the felicitation of our esteemed guests as a token of our deep respect and gratitude with Tulsi Mata. I now call upon Rashmi Singhania ji to felicitate our chief guest Sanjay Karol ji with the Tulsi Poda. Request Gautam Singh ji to felicitate Justice Retired Nagesh ji. Now request Vishal ji to felicitate Saji Narayanan ji. Now request Sampa ji to kindly felicitate Mallesham ji. I request T. Gopal ji to kindly felicitate Atul Sopti ji. I request Govind ji. I request Govind ji to felicitate D. Bharat Kumar ji. I request Bharti Tyagi ji to felicitate Yuki Otsu ji. I now request Bhavya Tyagi ji to felicitate Vinay Navre sir. I now invite Sri Vinay Navre sir, Senior Advocate and President of Adhivakta Parishad Supreme Court Unit, to deliver today's welcome address.
आज इस समरता दिवस के अवसर पर डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर जी का जो बर्थ एनिवर्सरी है, उस निमित्त से जो समरसता दिवस अधिवक्ता परिषद बहुत सालों से सेलिब्रेट करती आई है, इस अवसर पर मैं आप सभी का, अधिवक्ता बंधु भगिनी और अन्य जो व्यक्ति यहाँ उपस्थित है सम्मानीय, उनका मैं स्वागत करता हूँ। 14 अप्रैल यह दिन बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर जी का जन्म दिवस के नाते से बहुत सालों से अधिवक्ता परिषद समरसता दिवस नाम से और क्या तरीके से सेलिब्रेट करती आई है। अधिवक्ता परिषद की सोच इसके पीछे जो है वो मैं सबसे पहले बताना चाहता हूं कि अपने भारतीय समाज में जो अलग अलग कमियां हैं या कुछ मुद्दे ऐसे हैं जिसमें बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में बड़े प्रयास करके सुधार होना चाहिए, इस तरह के जो जरूरत है वो ध्यान में रखते हुए अधिवक्ता परिषद ने ये समरसता दिवस का आयोजन करने का बहुत सालों से सोचा है और हम करते आए हैं। मैं खुद वकील हूं और आप सभी यहाँ बैठे हुए वकील हैं, इसलिए डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर जी का योगदान अपनी भारतीय राज्य घटना के बनने में है उसके बारे में कहने की जरूरत नहीं है। वी ऑल आर वेल अवेयर ऑफ दैट। डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर जी की जो बैकग्राउंड रही है, जिस बैकग्राउंड से वो आए हैं, वो इस अवसर पर हमें ध्यान में लेना जरूरी है। एक समाज का ऐसा हिस्सा, मैं खुद महाराष्ट्र से आता हूं मूलतः, इसलिए मुझे महाराष्ट्र की परिस्थिति मालूम है। महाराष्ट्र में सबसे जो पिछला वर्ग माना गया और जिनका सफरिंग समाज की अलग अलग विषमता की जो स्थिति थी उसके कारण जो था महार समाज, उस महार समाज में अंबेडकर जी का जन्म हुआ था। जन्म वैसे महाराष्ट्र में नहीं हुआ था, लेकिन उनका कार्य का क्षेत्र बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में महाराष्ट्र रहा है और वो समाज, महार समाज जो है वो उनके साथ पूरे उनके प्रयास में रहा था। तो जो सफरिंग थी, वो सफरिंग से एक ऐसा बड़ा तबका समाज का, उसके ऊपर आने के लिए उनके खुद के प्रयास जो थे, अलग अलग तरह के आंदोलन थे, ये तो था ही, उसके साथ में राज्य घटना बनते समय भी उसमें इस तरह से प्रावधान किए जाने का आग्रह उन्होंने जो रखा था, उसके कारण हमको मालूम है कि बहुत सारी तरतूद, बहुत सारी प्रोविजंस ऐसी है जी जो वो तबके को बराबरी के नाते से कॉम्पीट करने के लिए एक मौका मिलने का कुछ प्रावधान उससे हुआ है। लेकिन हम सभी को ये भी मालूम है कि समाज में नॉर्मल तौर पे जो शब्द इस्तेमाल किया जाता है समता, और वो जो हमने फ्रेंच राज्य क्रांति से मिला ऐसे कहा जाता है, लेकिन एक्चुअली हमारा भारतीय इतिहास देखेंगे तो एक्चुअली वो तीनों मूल्य भी यही पैदा हुए हैं, हम दिखा सकते हैं, स्वातंत्र्य, समता और बंधुता। तो वो मूल्यों के लिए एक जरूरी कुछ समाज में वातावरण है या समाज में कुछ जरूरी भाव है, और वो भाव है समरसता का। एक तरह का एक दूसरों में मिलना इतना अच्छी तरह से हो कि समता विल बी अ नेचुरल कॉन्सिक्वेंस ऑफ दैट। समता अदरवाइज विदाउट समरसता विल बी अ सुपरफिशियल काइंड ऑफ सम सिचुएशन, सम स्टेटस। समता सिर्फ दिखाने के लिए अधिवक्ता परिषद ने कभी भी दिमाग में रखी नहीं है, और इसलिए जब समरसता दिन का आयोजन करने का अधिवक्ता परिषद ने बहुत सालों से तय करके किया है, उसके पीछे विचार जो है वो ये है। आज के इस कार्यक्रम में समरसता दिन के अवसर पर और एक कार्यक्रम का आयोजन हमने किया है, जो अपने मित्र जो साजी नारायण जी है, जो खुद भारतीय मजदूर संघ के अध्यक्ष रहे, बहुत सालों से भारतीय मजदूर संघ में एक्टिव रहे हैं। उन्होंने जो नया लेबर कोड जो आया है उसके ऊपर जो बुक बहुत साल से मेहनत करके उसके लिखा है, उसका पब्लिकेशन का भी कार्यक्रम या उसके ऊपर कुछ बहस करना, ये भी आज के कार्यक्रम का हेतु है। लेकिन इसमें भी समरसता दिवस और अंबेडकर जी का कुछ संबंध है। हम डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब अंबेडकर का अगर जीवन चरित्र देखें तो उन्होंने खुद ने लेबर यूनियन फॉर्म करके 30s में और 40s में उसके सहारे बहुत बड़ा काम किया था। सो इट वाज नॉट ओनली the contribution by way of social reform, or contribution by way of making of the constitution, but he also was very active, in fact founder of a labor union which was active in the freedom movement during those years in India. तो ये जो समरसता दिवस का आयोजन किया है वो उसमें ये भी उससे जुड़ा हुआ जो अंबेडकर जी के जीवन के कुछ प्रयासों का एक पहलू था, वो भी इस कार्यक्रम में हमने जोड़ा है। इस कार्यक्रम के लिए हमारे साथ में जो व्यक्तिगण है उनका परिचय तो अलग तरह से होगा, लेकिन माननीय संजय करोल जी जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जज है, बाद में माननीय नगरेश जी जो रिटायर्ड जज ऑफ द केरला हाई कोर्ट है, साजी नारायण जी खुद के ILO से जुड़े हुए काम में लगे हुए ऐसे महानुभाव है। इन सभी का इस कार्यक्रम में अपने लिए मार्गदर्शन होने वाला है। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो समरसता दिवस का आयोजन अधिवक्ता परिषद करती आई है या कर रही है, वो हेतु अगर आगे चलाना है, आगे लेके जाना है, तो हम सभी को वो भाव समरसता का हमारे आपस के व्यवहार में अच्छी तरह से, हमारे फैमिलीज में, हमारे आसपास के समाज में, हम जहां जहां जाते हैं वहां आचरण में लाना, यही उसका एक बेस्ट पॉसिबल कंट्रीब्यूशन हो सकता है। ये आशा व्यक्त करते हुए मैं आपसे निरोप लेता हूं। धन्यवाद।
Now I request Sri C.K. Saji Narayan ji, advocate, author, and former All India President of BMS, to deliver the introductory address on the topic, Dr. Ambedkar, the architect of Indian labor laws.
Respected Chair of this function, Advocate Vinay Navreji, Honorable Justice Sri Sanjay Karol ji, Honorable Justice Retired Sri Narayanan ji, other dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, सभी को मेरा डॉक्टर अंबेडकर जयंती का शुभकामनाएं और अभिनंदन। When we remember Dr. Ambedkar, it's very interesting to note that he is not only an architect of Indian Constitution, he was also an architect of Indian labor law reforms. Dr. Ambedkar completed his studies with flying colors from Columbia University as well as London School of Economics. After completing it, he came to Mumbai and he was immediately appointed as a professor in Government Law College, Mumbai. And he was also principal of that college. But for 10 years, he could not get a place for residence in Mumbai. So finally, he has to take residence in a chala. Chala means it's a place where the lowest state of people were living. In that building, he lived with mill workers. And there was a common, each floor had one common toilet, washroom, etc. Only one pipe also was there. So he lived with them. During that time, he understood the hardships of workers at that time. So he slowly interacted with them. He went to mills and met workers there. And he started trade union activities. In 1936, he also started a political party, Independent Labour Party. During that time, he studied about international labor organization, the conventions, recommendations, etc. He also studied the report of the first commission on labor, that is Royal Commission. So after that, in 1942, because of his contribution to the labor sector, he was inducted to the Viceroy's Council and he was given charge of labor. So now the government considers him as the first labor minister of India, even though it was before independence. So he was in charge of labor in the Viceroy's Council. And he was there only for a short period, only for 4 years, 1942 to 1946. And that period can be termed as the golden period of labor in Indian legislative history. Because he has revolutionized the labor legislation in the country at a time when that was in a very, very primary stage. And he was the person who started the tripartite mechanism in the country. Till that Indian Labour Conference, there were 3 Labour Conferences, it was attended only by the government officials. But he called employer representatives, worker representatives and government representatives, and he convened a meeting. There almost all important decisions relating to labor legislation was taken. So his passion for labor, that we could find during the 4 years of his tenure as the member. Then he implemented 8-hour work. At that time it was 14 hours, the normal working hour was 14 hours. He reduced it to 8-hour work. Then he adopted the England's system of 48 hours a week. That also was adopted here. He drafted the Minimum Wages Act, which was later, after his tenure, it was passed by the Parliament. Then he drafted the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act. It was presented in his in the Viceroy's Council, but it was passed only later. ESI Act, Employee State Insurance Act, also was drafted by him. He was the person to draft an insurance scheme for the workers, first time in Eastern Asian countries. It was in this ESI Act. Then he also drafted the EPF, Pradhan Fund Act. It was first in the mine sector, and there was a Welfare Act also he drafted. And for studying the first-hand information about mine workers, he went to Dhanbad. There he met with mines workers. He went underground and saw how workers are working in that area. So that was there. And he also formulated the Maternity Benefit Act, that law for the mine workers. Then almost all the main labor officers in the country were all started by Dr. Ambedkar, the Chief Labor Commissioner, the State Labor Commissioners, then labor inspectors. All this system was initiated by Dr. Ambedkar. He also started the system of dearness allowance, then revising the pay of government employees. That also he there. Paid holidays, leave with pay, overtime wages. All these are all started by Dr. Ambedkar. Then subsidized canteen, then medical facilities, everything. So even he presented a trade union amendment bill, but he could not pass it. So we will find that almost all the major laws, labor legislations were all drafted by and presented by Dr. Ambedkar during his very short tenure of 4 years. So he is not only an architect of Indian Constitution, he was the architect of India's labor reforms. And he made many laws regarding women. Mines Maternity Benefit Act he has drafted, Women Labor Welfare Fund, then Women and Child Labor Protection Act, then Maternity Leave Benefit for Women Labor. And he also restored a ban on employment of women underground in mine sector. So these are all major things for the women workers. We should understand that it was a time when the labor legislation was in a primitive condition, in a primary condition. At that time, he did all this. In the Constitution also, he inducted the philosophy of social justice and labor rights. It is there. And he actually wanted a labor in the union list because he knew that there will be a difference in labor rights and legislations according to various states. So he wanted to keep it in the union list, but he could not do that. That's why even after 75, 80 years, even today, there is a wide disparity of labor laws in the country. He also criticized the use of cheap labor. That should not be, that's a shame it's a national shame to use that term. That also he said. Thus, we can say that the short period of 4 years can be termed as the golden period of Indian labor. So when we discuss about labor codes, this is the best, it will not be complete without discussing about the contribution Dr. Ambedkar has given to labor legislation. With these words, I conclude. Thank you.
We now arrive at the most significant moment of the evening, the book release ceremony. The books being released today are Code on Wages 2019, Industrial Relations Code 2020, Code on Social Security 2020, Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020. May I request the Honorable Chief Guest Sanjay Karol ji, along with other dignitaries on the dais, to kindly unveil the books. We are also privileged by special presence of Yuki Otsuji, Worker Specialist, International Labour Organization, and Sri D. Bharat Kumar ji, All India General Secretary of Adhivakta Parishad. Thank you all for this momentous release. I now invite Justice N. Nagresh ji, former judge of Kerala High Court, to address the gathering on the theme topic of the book and labor laws.
Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Karol, Honorable Judge of the Supreme Court of India. Shri Vinay Naure, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Shri C.K. Saji Narayanan, Advocate and Leader of BMS. Srimati Yuki Osuji, Shri S. Mallesham, Shri Atul Soti, other eminent dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, senior lawyers, advocate friends, trade union activists, ladies and gentlemen. Akhil Bharatiya Adhivakta Parishad is celebrating today as Ambedkar Jayanti, as Rashtriya Samarasta Diwas. I think Adhivakta Parishad is the only organization celebrating Ambedkar Jayanti as their organizational program every year. I had opportunity to travel with Adhivakta Parishad for 10 or 15 years before I was elevated as a judge. And I know the working of Adhivakta Parishad from close quarters. It's a lawyer organization with a difference. It is apolitical and believes only in one motto, India first. Adhivakta Parishad believes that a lawyer should not only be a competent professional, but each and every lawyer should be a social activist who work for the upliftment of the country and for giving justice to the last man in India. The programs conducted by Adhivakta Parishad also are of a distinct nature. I have seen many of their programs like legal literacy, not only for lawyers, for the general public. The Nyaya Kendras of Adhivakta Parishad functioning in various parts of the country which gives free legal aid and assistance to all the needy persons. I have seen study circles running in almost all high courts in India, run by Adhivakta Parishad, where serious discussions on legal topics are being carried out. And I am sure that Adhivakta Parishad has been instrumental in instilling the feeling of nationalism and India first among a large number of lawyers in India. And undoubtedly, Adhivakta Parishad is the first, the largest lawyers organization perhaps in the world as on today. As on today. I am also happy to be a part of this confluence because I am addressing you in the presence of Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Karol, Honorable Judge of the Supreme Court of India, one of the most eminent Supreme Court judges as on date in Supreme Court of India, with whom I had an opportunity to acquaint some nearly 20 years ago in Kerala. About 20 years ago, there was a communal carnage that occurred in Kerala, which was known as Marg carnage. The people in Kerala wanted to have a CBI investigation into that carnage. The local government was not so inclined. They were happy with the local police investigation. And these supporters for CBI investigation contacted D. Bharat Kumar, the then General Secretary of even now he is the General Secretary, the General Secretary of Adhivakta Parishad, and requested that a very competent senior designate lawyer should come from Supreme Court to prosecute the case. If my memory is correct or my information is correct, Mr. Bharat Kumar contacted Arunji Jaitley, the then law minister, and Arunji Jaitley suggested the name of Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Karol, who was then a senior lawyer, who came to Kerala, and I had the opportunity to assist Mr. Justice Karol at that point of time. From then onwards, I know Mr. Justice Karol. Mr. Justice Karol, along with Justice Thottathil Radhakrishnan, who later became the Chief Justice of Karnataka, both of them stood and fought the case. That case, ultimately, after 2 or 3 rounds of writ petitions, the government was forced to order CBI inquiry into the matter. I am also happy. Mr. Saji, when Mr. Saji Narayanan books is released, I must be there because my acquaintance with Mr. Saji Narayanan must be at least 40, 45 years old. I know him from 1980s. Immediately after his graduation, his native place is Trichur in Kerala. You might have heard of that place, about 70 kilometers from Ernakulam, Kochi, where the High Court is situated. Sri Sajinarayan used to frequent Ernakulam in 1980s. And I will say, this man sitting here is a person molded by none other than Dattopan Thengidiji. I have seen Sajinarayan interacting with the Topan Chendriji frequently. And soon thereafter, Sajinarayan became a trade union activist at the instance of the Topanji. He became district president, then state president, then national president of Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, during which time I think the Bharat BMS has become the largest organization in India. His activities do not end there. He worked for BMS as a national vice president, etc., while doing active practice in Trichur. That is the speciality of it. Without compromising his practice in Trichur, he was doing all this. And rightly, he was inducted in the National Labour Commission. That was at a time when the globalization was being introduced all over the world. Most of the parties, political parties, social organizations, etc., were against imposition of globalization in India, you may remember. And it is at that point of time, Mr. Sajinarayan became the member of a National Labour Commission. Obviously, when the National Labour Commission report came, there were so many aspects which were in tune with and in support of globalization. And among the entire National Labour Commission, Sajinarayan was the only person who gave a dissent note opposing the globalization policies that were proposed by the government during that time. Sajinarayan's dissent note on the National Labour Commission report became more popular than the National Labour Commission report itself. I am saying so because this was published by a book publisher in Kerala, and these dissent notes were selling like hot potatoes. That is how, many persons approached, congratulated Sajinarayan for his bold stand taken during that time. Mr. Sajinarayan, you must know, he is the person who is representing India in the International Labour Organization for the last nearly 20 years. I think at least more than 20 times he has flown to Geneva for ILO conferences, and he is the voice of Indian labor force in the international community. He has written dozens and dozens of law books in Kerala, labor laws. Go to any court, any labor court, any industrial court, the presiding officer will ask, get that book of Mr. Sajinarayan of Industrial Disputes Act or Payment of Wages Act. His books are so popular, but his literary adventure is not confined to the law. He has written dozens of books on other subjects also, including culture, social affairs, and economy, many aspects on organizations, etc. And his books he has written books, you may wonder, a man coming from the southern tip of India, he has written books in Hindi also. He has written books in Malayalam, he has written books in English, he has written books in Hindi. Something I don't know how this, this gentleman achieved it. These books now being released here, I will say this is the first commentary on the labor codes that have come recently. This is the biggest volumes of a commentary. So other bare acts have been published, but this is the first commentary on the labor codes introduced a couple of years ago. Friends, I will say that it is true that India is progressing. India has reached the fourth economic power status. We will become third, then we will become second. Perhaps we may become first by 2050, we don't know. But while development comes, we should ensure that the benefit of developments, economic developments in India goes down to the last persons. Unless the benefit of economic development reaches the last man in India, there is no point in boasting that we are economically number one. And the areas where we should concentrate, I need not tell you, you are all lawyers. The farmers, laborers, and other downtrodden sectors should get the benefit of the economic progress, failing which there is no point in we boasting ourselves that we are economic power. So the new code introduced by the government it's a watershed moment, I will say, because the labor laws in India pre-independence were made to douse the anger of the workers rather than solving the problems of the workers. Take the case of Industrial Disputes Act. A worker is wronged. What is his remedy? He has to go to the union people, ask him to raise an industrial dispute. Union raises an industrial dispute. A long conciliation procedure follows. Then a failure report is sent to the government. The file is kept on the table of the government for 2-3 years. This failure report then goes to the industrial tribunal or industrial court, where the courts and tribunals, industrial courts are toothless because they cannot even pass interim orders. And it lies down there for 5 years. Then it goes to the High Court under 226, then writ appeal, then Supreme Court. When will a man get justice? Most of our labor laws during the, I will say pre-1947, I should not blame the post-1947 laws, because these laws, which were followed by us for long, has been denying justice to the labor class. And it was denying justice not only to the labor class, it was doing injustice to the employers also, because the mechanism of compliance in the labor sector was so horrible that if you want to start an industry, you require at least 30-40 permits or compliance. A report has to be, a statement has to be filed in respect of each labor law. PF, you have to file a statement. ESI, you have to file a statement. Boilers, factories and boilers, you have to file a statement. For every there is a thing. Now the new code has therefore brought a sea change, which has made it more benefit to the employer as well as employees, in as much as employers have ease of doing business, and the laborers have also benefited in many fields, including payment of gratuity and other areas. So being a revolutionary change in the labor sector affecting nearly 30 crores of Indians, this book is of importance. It is important. It is the first commentary on labor codes. I am happy that it released today. We should read it, and we should more and more popularize these books of Mr. Saji Narayanan. Thank you.
Now I invite Sri S. Mallesamji, All India President of BMS, the biggest workers' union in the world, with a membership of more than 1 crore, to present the workers' perspective on the new labor codes.
Namaskar, sir. Respected Honorable Justice, Supreme Court of India, Sri Sanjay Kaulji, former Justice of India, Supreme Court Judges, Sriman Nagaresh ji, Atul Sobji ji, Director General, Scope Complex, CPT Member, EPFO, Sri C.K. Sajjananand ji, author of the book, now you are important, and a former President of Bharati Madhu Sangh, Vinay Navare ji, President Akhila Bharatiya Adhivakta Parishad, Supreme Court Unit, Sri Bharat Kumar ji, and Yuki Madam from ILO, and friends. आज हम लोग बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट अवसर पर मिलने का एक मौका अधिवक्ता परिषद ने दिया है। हम लोग सब लोग जानते हैं डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने लेबर लॉस का में आर्किटेक्ट में एक बहुत बड़ा योगदान डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर का रहा है। ये महापुरुष को हम याद करते हुए इस अवसर पर श्रीमान सज्जनानंद जी ने जो किताब लिखा है लेबर कोड्स के ऊपर कमेंट्री, उस बुक्स को रिलीज करने के लिए एक कार्यक्रम में आयोजन करने का मौका मुझे दिए हैं। मैं अधिवक्ता परिषद को सर्वप्रथम धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं। आप लोग सब लोग जानते हैं लेबर लॉस इन इंडिया एक बहुत बड़ा सब्जेक्ट है। जैसे नगरेश जी ने बताया, लेबर लॉस, मोस्ट ऑफ द लेबर लॉस इन इंडिया नाउ प्री इंडिपेंडेंट जो लेजिस्लेशंस आज भी लागू करते हैं। एम्प्लॉयमेंट कंपनसेशन एक्ट 1923 का है, ट्रेड यूनियंस एक्ट 1926 का है, पेमेंट ऑफ वेजेस एक्ट 1936 का है, आज भी वो लागू करते हैं। इस विषय को लेकर बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स समस्या है। इसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में, कवरेज में, कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी वन एनैक्टमेंट से दूसरा एनैक्टमेंट के ऊपर ऐसा बहुत कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन रहने के कारण लंबा समय से हिंदुस्तान में सारे ट्रेड यूनियंस एंड एम्प्लॉयर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस आर डिमांडिंग फॉर द सिंप्लीफिकेशन ऑफ द लेबर लॉस। सिंप्लीफिकेशन करना चाहिए एंड अमालगमेट करके दिस विल बी मोर एप्लीकेबिलिटी पार्ट बढ़ाने के लिए प्रयत्न करना चाहिए, ऐसा विचार सारे ट्रेड यूनियंस का एम्प्लॉयर्स का रहा है। विषय को लेकर श्रीमान अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी जो प्रधानमंत्री थे, उसे सेकंड नेशनल कमीशन लेबर गठन किए थे श्रीमान उस रविंद्र वर्मा जी के चेयरमैनशिप में। उस कमेटी के सदस्य भी थे श्रीमान सज्जनानंद जी। ये सौभाग्य का बात है, 25 साल पहले उस कमेटी का भी रिपोर्ट में था हिंदुस्तान में जितने भी लेबर लॉस है आउटडेटेड है, सेल्फ कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी है, इसको दूर करने के लिए सिंप्लीफिकेशन करना चाहिए, ऐसा रिकमेंडेशन सेकंड नेशनल कमीशन लेबर भी दिया है। 25 साल पहले इसका रिकमेंडेशन आया, मगर हिंदुस्तान में इसके ऊपर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं हुआ। 2014 में वर्तमान सरकार मोदी जी का सरकार आने के बाद इसका कोडिफिकेशन का काम शुरू किया है। एम्प्लॉयर्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ, ट्रेड यूनियंस के साथ लेबर डिपार्टमेंट ने चर्चा किया। तो सेंट्रल लेबर लेजिस्लेशंस आउट ऑफ 44 अभी लेबर लेजिस्लेशंस है। ये 44 में 29 लेबर लॉस को 4 कोर्ट्स में कन्वर्ट करने का प्रयत्न शुरू किया है। इस कंसल्टेशन में भारतीय मजदूर संघ की तरफ से एक बड़ा टीम हम लोग इसमें काम किया है, सजी के नेतृत्व में। ये करके इसमें हम बहुत सजेशन भारत सरकार को दिए हैं। उसके बाद ये हमने एनैक्टमेंट आया है 21 नवंबर 2025, भारत सरकार ने उसको नोटिफाई भी किया है। आप लोग सब लोग जानते हैं। इसमें जो फर्स्ट कोड है, कोड ऑन वेजेस 2019, दिस ए वेरी हिस्टोरिकल सेटलमेंट एनैक्टमेंट है, ऐसा हम लोग ट्रेड के भाषा में कहते हैं। इसीलिए कहते हैं वेजेस में, बिकॉज ऑफ द स्टेट एनैक्टमेंट, स्टेट में भी इसका वेजेस के बारे में स्टेट गवर्नमेंट भी वेजेस डिसाइड करता है, मिनिमम वेजेस। सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट भी मिनिमम वेजेस डिसाइड करता है, ऐसे कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी है। कुछ स्टेट्स में 15 साल पहले मिनिमम वेजेस जो डिसाइड किया आज भी चलता है। मैं हैदराबाद से आता हूँ। 2011 में जो मिनिमम वेजेस तय किया था उस सरकार, उस समय का सरकार, आज भी 2011 का ही सरकार वेजेस चलता है। उसके कारण पीपल वर्कर्स आर गेटिंग मिनिमम वेजेस ऑफ 11,000 रुपीज़, 12,000 रुपीज़, ऐसा बहुत सारे स्टेट्स में है। एक स्टेट से दूसरा स्टेट का अंतर रहता है वेजेस। कुछ वेजेस को कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स के साथ लिंक करने के कारण दे विल गेट वीडीए लिंकेज रहता है। कुछ वेजेस को 5 इयर्स के बाद रिवाइज करना, कुछ वेजेस को 10 इयर्स के बाद रिवाइज करना, बहुत सारे कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी है। ये नया वेज कोड में एक हिस्टोरिकल डिसीजन ऐसा दिया है, दिल बी नेशनल फॉर मिनिमम वेज, उससे कम कोई स्टेट गवर्नमेंट नहीं देना चाहिए। शेड्यूल्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट को निकाल दिया, हर 5 साल में रिवाइज करना चाहिए, कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स लगा देना चाहिए। ऐसे कुछ विषय लाने के कारण, एक नया विषय के कारण पूरे हिंदुस्तान में मजदूरों को वेजेस का एक प्रोटेक्शन मिलने का यूनिफॉर्मिटी इस वेज कोड के कारण आया है। बहुत सारे आंदोलन देश भर में होता है मिनिमम वेजेस के लेकर। ऐसा विषय आने वाले समय में दूर होगा, ऐसा विषय हम लोग समझ रहे हैं। उसी तरह सोशल सिक्योरिटी कोड ऑल्सो वेरी एक रेवोल्यूशनरी कोड है, वो भी एक हिस्टोरिकल है। इसीलिए है आज हम ESIC जो इम्पोर्टेंट एनैक्टमेंट 1948 में डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर के समय में इसका जो कंसीव हुआ था वो लाया गया। आज पूरा देश भर में ESIC में कवर्ड एम्प्लॉयज आर ओनली 3.5 करोड़ आउट ऑफ 50 करोड़ वर्किंग क्लास इन दिस कंट्री। भारत सरकार के जो आंकड़े के हिसाब से 50 करोड़ ट्रेड अपना मजदूर काम करने वाले मजदूर है, उसमें कवरेज इज ओनली 3.5 करोड़। सिमिलरली प्रोविडेंट फंड EPFO का कवरेज is only for 8 crore people, that is only 15%. आज़ादी का इतना 75 बरस के बाद only 15% of the people are covered by EPFO, 8% of the people are covered by the ESIC. This is a very pathetic situation हम हिंदुस्तान में देखते हैं। इस एक्ट में सरकार ने कहा है this universal coverage, the entire working class of this country will be covered by the new code, ऐसे एक legislation में लेके आया। हम इसको स्वागत किया है। ऐसा कुछ नया विषय जो आने के कारण कुछ वर्कर्स के हित में होने वाला कुछ विषय हम लेबर कोड में देखते हैं। कुछ सजेशंस हम दिए है, सरकार अभी मानना है, उसमें परिवर्तन करने के भी कुछ डिमांड करते हैं। यानी हम पूरे लेबर लॉस में बहुत लंबा समय के बाद जो काम हुआ, उस काम के ऊपर श्रीमान सजी जी ने जो किताब लिखा है कमेंट्री, ये बहुत अच्छा किताब है। 2800 पेजेस का किताब, वो लेबर कोड आने के बाद तुरंत फर्स्ट ऑथर होगा इस देश में। मैं समझता हूँ सजी जी का किताब इतना वॉल्यूमिनियस किताब है, 2800 पेजेस। वेज कोड का प्रारंभ हुआ उस समय से किताब लिखना भी शुरू कर दिया सजी जी ने, इसीलिए लिखना शुरू किया। मैं समझता हूँ सेकंड नेशनल कमीशन के मेंबर होने के नाते बहुत एक्सपीरियंस है, एडवोकेट भी है। लेबर लॉ हिंदुस्तान के जो मजदूर है उनका हार्ट भी, उनका जो समस्या भी समझने वाला, ग्राउंड से अटैच रहने के कारण, लेबर लॉ से जुड़ा, लेबर से और लेबर लॉ से दोनों से जुड़ने के कारण ये काम किया, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। इस किताब में पुराना लॉ वेजेस, द ओल्ड लॉ एंड द न्यू कोड्स के बीच में क्या डिफरेंसेस है, ये पूरा विषय वेरी क्लियरली ये किताब में आया है। पुराना कानून क्या सिचुएशन था, नया सिचुएशन क्या है। उसी तरह वेरियस सुप्रीम कोर्ट का और वेरियस हाई कोर्ट्स का जो जजमेंट्स सेक्शन वाइज जो रिपोर्टिंग हुआ है, ये सेक्शन वाइज व्हाट एवर द इम्पोर्टेंट जजमेंट्स के बारे में भी इस किताब में लिखा है। and especially ILO का conventions and recommendations based on which these labor laws are being framed. ये सारे विषय के ऊपर भी एक उसका जो ILO कन्वेंशंस के बारे में और रिकमेंडेशन के बारे में भी इस किताब में आया है. एंड लैंडमार्क जजमेंट्स ऑफ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑन वेरियस इश्यूज स्पेशली इसमें लिखा है, किताब में कमेंट्री में आया है. इसके कारण मैं समझता हूँ देश का ऐसा एक किताब पहला एक ऑथर ने लिखा है मजदूर के लिए, मजदूर हित के लिए जो सरकार ने कानून लाया, इसको व्यापक दृष्टि से प्रचार करने का जो प्रयत्न किया है सरकार की दृष्टि से और लॉ मेकर्स के सामने और प्रैक्टिशनर्स के सामने, प्रोफेशनल्स के सामने एक अच्छा किताब ये सजी जी के कारण हुआ है, ऐसा मैं समझता हूँ. इस किताब का अच्छा प्रचार प्रसार होके अच्छी तरह गरीब मजदूर का शोषण जो हो रही है इसको रोकने का प्रयत्न हम सब लोग मिलकर करना चाहिए. इतने मैं करते हुए मैं रवानी पर धन्यवाद.
Next, I invite Sri Atul Sopdichi, Director General Scope, an employer member in the governing body of International Labour Organization, to present the employer's perspective.
धन्यवाद. Honorable Chief Guest, Justice Sanjay Karol, and all the dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, all the participants here, ladies and gentlemen. सबसे पहले तो मैं अखिल भारतीय अभिवक्ता परिषद को मुबारकबाद देना चाहूँगा. ये समर्थता दिवस जो हम डॉक्टर बी आर अम्बेडकर की जयंती के अवसर पर मना रहे हैं, ये एक बहुत ही अच्छी पहल है. और मुझे साहब उन्होंने बोला है शुरू में कि हर साल इस बार को मनाया जाता है, और आज तो इसमें एक दूसरी चीज़ भी ऐड हो गई है क्योंकि मिस्टर साजी नारायण की उनकी बुक जो है लेबर कोड के ऊपर आज जो है उसको सब लोगों ने मिलकर जो है बुक लॉन्चिंग भी की है. और ये एक बुक जो है मेरे को ऐसा लगता है, मैंने पढ़ी तो नहीं है बट मुझे ऐसा लगता है नए लेबर कोड के तहत जो है ये एक बहुत बड़ी रेफरेंस बुक और रिपोजिटरी होगी हम सबको रेफर करने के लिए. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद उनके पब्लिशर को भी जिन्होंने इस बुक को छापा है. मैं ये भी कहना चाहूँगा कि आज जो है दिस सब्जेक्ट जो मुझे दिया गया है, द गिविंग द एम्प्लॉयर पर्सपेक्टिव ऑन न्यू लेबर कोड्स, दिस सब्जेक्ट इज वेरी एप्ट टुडे, स्पेशली ऑन द in the light of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Jayanti, which is a tribute to his principles and honor for him for his contribution to India. In fact, he, as my previous speakers have also mentioned, that Dr. Ambedkar, who is known as the father of the Indian Constitution, but he was also pivotal in ensuring the inclusion of the labor welfare as an integral part of the Constitution of India. चाहे हम प्रियम्बल पढ़ें, चाहे फंडामेंटल राइट्स पढ़ें, चाहे डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी एंड स्टेट पॉलिसी पढ़ें, everywhere we see that they provide the bedrock for framing the labor and social legislations. In fact, already it has been covered that how he was instrumental in introducing the Factories Act 1948, Industrial Dispute Act, where he strongly advocated the protection of the workers in terms of safety, health, welfare, fair wages, limiting working hours, and protecting the rights of the union. In fact, now the new labor codes have come, which I feel are the clearly aligns with his vision, embedded by Dr. Ambedkar in the Constitution. In fact, rooted in the framework of dignity, equity, and social justice. The new 4 labor codes, with my friend Malishwan just talked about it. I feel, because I was also involved as a part of the tripartite committee comprising of governments, employers, and employees while finalizing these labor codes. I feel that they are the mirror of Dr. Ambedkar vision of an inclusive labor ecosystem where growth is coupled with justice. As mentioned, that 29 complex labor laws have been subsumed in the 4 labor codes, which is, I feel, this is a move towards enhancing the workers' welfares and aligning the labor ecosystem with the evolving of the world of work. While we go through the labor codes, I'll just try to link it with the thinking and philosophy of Dr. Ambedkar Sahab. If we talk about the first labor code, that is the labor code on wages, just to mention few points out of that, it mentions of the statutory minimum wages and the timely payment. You see what was the vision of the Dr. Ambedkar? He also advocated the fair wages. You take the OSH code, which talks of the need of the safe and dignified workplace. A vision was time and again stressed by Dr. Ambedkar. You see the what you call various philosophy which he had advocated. You take the third one, Social Security Code, where in fact now it has been enlarged, focus has been enlarged, coverage has been enlarged by bringing the informal workforce and the new form of working also, that is the gig workers, platform workers, which is also resonates with the Dr. Ambedkar belief of promoting the social protection. If I talk about the Industrial Relations Code also, that also echoes the balanced approach to the industrial harmony by formalizing the dispute resolution and safeguarding both workers' rights and economic productivity. So you see, even after 75 years, the codes which have come also, of course, they are basically bring the evolving work, culture, developments across the world, but is the basic philosophy remains same. I must share that when the labor codes came into being on 21st, when it was announced on 21st of November 2025, at that time, as a member of the governing body of International Labour Organization, I was attending the governing body there. And on that day, I personally briefed UK2 Director General ILO also about the landmark initiatives by Government of India. And he, in fact, not only congratulated all of us, employers and employees representatives and the government representative also there, but he also tweeted on the same day, and he praised the efforts made by India to align the labor reforms with the evolving economic landscape. We are upholding the ILO's fundamental principles of right to work through these labor codes. Also, recently when in the month of March 26, when the governing body meeting was being held, just to share with you, I was approached by many groups, employer groups as well as other groups as well, also the International Organization of Employers, to make a presentation on the various aspects of the new labor codes which have been introduced in India, to educate them on what kind of changes and the unique initiative India has taken. In fact, the presentations and the interactions were very well received. I just want to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, the impact and the eagerness of Indian labor codes. Within a short span of 4 to 5 months, it's being recognized across the world. And if I give my own perspective as an employer representative, I believe the labor codes are much needed intervention which mark a historic shift towards simplification, transparency, and inclusivity. All the three elements are covered in that. You see that although it has already been mentioned by Mr. Maleshwar Sahab also, but 2-3 points I like to mention. That it promotes because basically our approach should be from informal to formal employment. More and more people have to be brought to the formal employment. And we see the social, and for not only effectively as a formal job, basically they should be brought to the social security net, and that's what labor code is trying to do. Second point you see, there is a focus on ensuring the national floor wages, timely payment of the payment, and no worker will receive the wages below the minimum living standards. And also the very important aspect, today we are discussing about the Nari Shakti, gender neutral employment by opening all type of works for women subject to the appropriate safety mechanism. And it also balances the welfare and the productivity. Because for the first time, we have been discussing in ILO from last 2-3 years about the gig and platform worker, bringing a convention for that. But I'm very very proudly I like to share India is among the very few countries in the world and a first largest economy in the large economy in the world, which has brought a legislation on gig and platform worker and giving them the social security, a big achievement which has been achieved through these labor codes. Now the point is, what is important now, these labor codes are understood and implemented in the right spirit. That's very, very important thing. Workforce is not misguided. This is very, very important thing, and this here, it's essential that workers are aware about the provisions. Employers are also aware about the provisions. The labor code, that how it impacts them. For this, the trade union should engage in the workers' awareness campaign. This is a request to the biggest organization, trade union organization in the world also, that we should start the workers' awareness campaign, especially for the informal sector. And I believe that it's important to strengthen the social dialogue between all the three constituents, whether it's the government, whether it's the employee or employer. And it's imperative to engage in the tripartite or bipartite dialogue so that the stakeholders are aligned with the common objective and build the consensus and trust. In this, I represent SCOPE, which is a part of the Council of Indian Employers. We can work closely with the workers to arrive at the consensus on the global positions also. That's also very, very important thing. I would also be very happy as part of the representative on various international and national forums to play an integral role amongst the tripartite stakeholders while ensuring that the country has a unified position on the global front. I'd like to end with a quote of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Sahab: "The interest of employers and employees are not opposed, but interdependent." Forums like today are important to promote this harmony and goodwill so that all can work towards striking a balance between productivity and welfare. So as the labor codes pave the way for India defined by dignity, equity, and justice, let's ensure their effective implementation and deep-rooted understanding among all stakeholders. People should not be misguided. We need to educate them. So we reaffirm our commitment towards a compliant and compassionate labor ecosystem, and books like these, which I mentioned, are going to be the repository of the 4 labor codes, will definitely help in that direction. Thank you very much. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.
Justice Sanjay Karol. Sir needs no introduction. He reposes faith in young advocates who appear in this courtroom by appointing hundreds of them as amicus curiae. He has done what Ambedkar asked of institutions, not merely promise of equality, but practice it. Opportunity flows not from the Constitution, rather it is the people in power that give life to letters in the black. Justice Karol has chosen to be that authority, promoting young advocates and providing access of opportunity. For young advocates, these are memorable events in their career. I still preserve. 10 years back, we take certified copies, we keep those orders, we preserve them. It's a living embodiment of Ambedkar's values. It's my honor to invite Justice Sanjay Karol ji to give his address.
On the dais and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. To begin with, my homage and pranam to this great man, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Bharat Ratan of this great nation, India. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of this book release function. Dr. Ambedkar, as everyone knows, as 12 speakers have said, was a great literary man. He was the one who architected the Constitution of India. Very few people, though, know about his work insofar as the labor laws is concerned. This is one such occasion where all of us, more so the young ones who are present both in this hall and are connected through digital mode, know more and more about Dr. Ambedkar's activities and contribution in this field. What made Dr. Ambedkar great is the question which I pose every day to myself. And that being that he had seen, I would not use the word suffered, seen the people of India from very, very close quarters. He could sense their feelings, their problems, and translate into both thought and action. And it is this, ladies and gentlemen, which at least I emulate every day. Wherever I go, in whichever conference, I always say this, that my holy book, perhaps every citizen's holy book, is the Constitution of India, which we must read every day. And this holy book is given to us by none other than this great visionary, Dr. Ambedkar. Thank you, organizers, for making me part of this function. I would also say this, that the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, observed that every laborer is worthy of his hire. When placed alongside Dr. Ambedkar, constitutional vision, this thought acquires even greater depth. And it acquires a greater depth for the reason that today we are celebrating the Samarasta Diwas. And Samarasta, according to me, means peaceful coexistence, balance, togetherness amongst different individuals or groups. It is in this context, I must say that this is one such occasion that each one of us, coming from different backgrounds, are here on a single platform, discussing, debating, visualizing the roadmap for this great nation and also fulfilling the goals set up by our forefathers in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. 1986-87, Mr. Saji, thank you for taking me back to that year. I came across two gentlemen, and this is to the young members of the bar. There was no work, for a young person, save and except for doing supposedly trivial matters of labor disputes. And my recollection is this, that there was a labor dispute going on between the management and the workers of a very famous brand of cold drinks, Coca-Cola. It was in Bombay. Mr. Mukul Mudgul, as he then was at that time, I don't know what he saw in me, but he took me to Bombay to argue the matter. Of course, I was assisting him, but he argued the matter. And to a large extent, we were able to put across the viewpoint of the workers. That took me forward to the tribunal, appellate tribunal, which was set up at one of the buildings in the Kasturba Gandhi Marg. So, young gentlemen, all I want to tell you is this: that is how I started my career in this profession. And I was able to, pursuing that cause of the workers, I came across yet a literary person, just as are we seeing Mr. Saji in flesh and blood, Mr. O.P. Malhotra, the great author on the industrial laws. If I were to compare the two, I'll be unfair because both can't be compared. Your contribution, author, is immense in making these laws, the new code, available to everyone throughout the country. I would also congratulate the publisher. He was here for having done this great job. When Mr. Saji met me about 3 years ago and wanted me to write something about the book, I studied it then. It had not been notified at that. The laws had not, codes had not been notified. But nonetheless, I did write. And what I wrote there is something which I will not read today, but I would request you to please read. Comprehensively, what Mr. Saji has done has been penned down there. I would also say this, that the author has given a historical perspective, both pre-independence and post-independence. He has also taken care of penning down the constitutional perspective. More so, part 3, part 4, and part 4A of the Constitution of India. As we all know, that for centuries, economic life was decentralized and informal, rooted in agriculture, artisanal production, and customary systems of exchange. But with the passage of time, things changed. And then came independence and the new laws. But the problem of the laborers continued. While the organized sector benefited from increasingly sophisticated legal protections, the vast majority of India's workforce remained outside their effective reach. The unorganized worker continued to operate in conditions of informality, insecurity, and legal invisibility. You may also want to briefly reflect on how labor laws have been represented on our cultural imagination, particularly through cinema. Young gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, members of the bar, I would request you to see certain movies which are true reflection of the state of affairs as they existed at the ground level. Hindi cinema, especially in the decades following independence, often served as a mirror to the struggles of the working class. Films such as Diwas depicted consequences of betrayal faced by the trade union worker and its impact on the next generation. Kala Patthar, the harsh realities of coal miners and unsafe working conditions were brought to the forefront, inspired by real industrial disasters. Even earlier, films like Do Biga Zameen or Naya Daur captured the anxieties of displacement, industrialization, and the tension between the labor and technology. These films did more than entertain. They gave visibility to the worker who had no voice. They humanized economic struggle, and they placed questions of justice, dignity, and exploitation into the public discourse. Significantly, in more recent decades, such narratives have become less prominent, reflecting a broader shift in societal focus towards aspirational and consumption-driven and capitalist stories rather than those centered on labor and class. It is within this context that the Constitution of India assumes central importance. I need not mention about the various articles each one of are aware of, and more specifically Article 14, 16, 19, 21, 23, 24, and the Director's Principles of State Policy. I would also say this, that despite this rich constitutional and statutory framework, the labor law regime that evolved over decades became increasingly fragmented and complex, and therefore the need to have evaluation and change. For workers, particularly those in the unorganized sector, it meant that legal protections were often inaccessible or ineffective. The system, in effect, was too complex to navigate. And as Justice Nagaraj said, that it was a very, very lengthy, tardy process, unending, not yielding the desired results. I would also say this, that the broader economic changes you opposed, but it has taken place, were reshaping the nature of work itself. Liberalization and globalization, so also technological advancement, altered the production systems and employment patterns. Informal subcontracting expanded interstate migration, intensified the new forms of work emerged through digital platforms, and the gig-based arrangements such as Zomato, Swiggy, or for that matter, wherever you go, be it the any government department or private establishment, including the airports, you always see BVG. So outsourcing is the new norm. Perhaps the labor codes represent an attempt to respond to this historical and contemporary reality by creating new, coherent, inclusive, and modern framework. But how far they will in fact lead to constructive or ground changes is a question to be judged in posterity. Two major issues which I need to highlight. And one is this, that despite the constitutional guarantees, the child labor, unfortunately, though constitutionally prohibited and statutorily regulated, continues to persist in the segments of the economy that remain informal and weakly regulated. It exists in small workshops, domestic spaces, agriculture, and within supply chains that are not always visible to formal enforcement mechanisms. 35 crore Indian citizens are children below 14 years of age. Lack of education, lack of infrastructure, lack of awareness is something which we need to talk about to ensure that their overall development is there for the reason that they are the future of this great nation. They are going to make this nation great and take it to greater heights. Equally, I would say that when it comes to women, Mr. Sopti mentioned about the equality amongst the women, which the new code is endeavoring to bring in. As and when it will be notified, surely it will do that. But look at the plight of the women in all sectors. 48% of Indian population are women. And not everyone is lucky to be born in affluent families. And not everyone is lucky to have had education, much less higher education. Historically, women's labor in India has been marked by both invisibility and inequality. When you travel by road or by train, the only visible sight apart from the sky, the flora, and perhaps the fauna is the woman who's working in the fields. And for whom is she working? She's not working for herself. She's working to meet two ends meet so that her children don't go hungry at night. She's aspiring to make her children become big people, educate them, and have them, bring them in the national mainstream. A significant proportion of women work in informal or home-based settings where legal protections are limited. We are in Delhi. We are in Bombay. We are in Chennai or any metro. it is this ayah, I don't know what you call in Bombay, who comes to our home. Have you ever thought about her? Is she can we bring her into an organized sector? Who is regulating her? Who is even thinking about her? And this trend, post-COVID, has skyrocketed, gone up north with over-urbanization. Even within formal employment, the disparities. Now, where there is formal employment, for example, the air hostesses, there's huge disparity in wages, access, and workplace safety, which unfortunately persists. This brings me to yet another question. As I said that in 1986 and 87, the union's existence was visible. Trade union's existence was visible. Now, they are a partner in the implementation of the labor laws and perhaps the reforms which are sought to be brought in. But as I look at it, subject to correction, they are all but missing from this equation. One only wonders why, and for they are best placed to be the voice of the worker, and more so of an unorganized sector. These are the issues which I thought I would have wanted to highlight. I would also say this, that with the economic development, there has to be development, overall development, social, economic, and political of each one of the 140 crore Indians. International Labour Organization and its decent work agenda are guiding principles. They are guiding us day in and day out. I'm glad that your presence here would further advance this cause of those who are invisible and who have no access to the justice delivery system. And they are the ones, I'm surely, will take forward, ensure that their rights at work, social protection, and social dialogue is brought in. I would also say this, that would bringing in these codes transform the lives of the workers? Well, it is something which is left for the time to be seen. Whether these codes are pro-labor or pro-industry will all depend upon its workability. But one thing is there for sure, that with perhaps that with bringing in these codes, though there's a shift in the inspector come facilitator model, but the inspector Raj would never ever come back. That I am sure about. I would also say this, that in fact, I should have said it in the beginning, that both the author and my colleague comes from Kerala. And that takes me back to Justice Krishna Iyer, who has emphatically said that it is important to recall that labor laws must remain rooted in human dignity. And this is precisely what this Bharat Ratan desired to be so. Surely, with the passage of time, we would be moving forward to achieve the aspirations of these two great gentlemen. Young lawyers, a word again to you. No case is small. I have just given you an example that I started with the labor laws, interacted with the great authors, gave me great opportunity to understand the realities of life, and gave me a perspective, a constitutional dimension. And therefore, I beseech upon you to please take forward this great movement of making the workers, regardless of the gender, come together and work in an organized manner, and ensure that their problems, their issues are highlighted, their grievances are highlighted, their grievance redressal mechanism, you can be part and parcel in that. And it brings, again, I'm saying, dignity amongst them. If there is, I would also say this, if there is progress, it must be measured not only in economic terms, but in the security, opportunity, and the well-being of those who labor. In the final analysis, the strength of a nation lies not only in the scale of its economy, but in the fairness of the system that sustains it. Once again, my congratulations to the author, to the publisher, and to the organizers of today's function. Jai Hind.
Lordship, thank you for a thought-provoking address. Your words have truly enriched the occasion. Now I call upon Dr. Vijayavana to propose vote of thanks.
Good evening to everyone. Before we conclude, it is my proud privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Adhivakta Parishad Supreme Court Unit. I extend our deepest gratitude to Honorable Justice Shri Sanjay Karol ji for graciously presiding over this occasion as the chief guest and for his inspiring and thought-provoking address, which has truly enriched us all. I also express our sincere thanks to Justice N. Nagaresh ji for his esteemed presence and for sharing his valuable insights with the gathering. We are deeply honored by the presence of Srimati Yuki Utsuji joining us for bringing the perspective of International Labour Organization for this important discussion. I extend heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished speakers, Sri C.K. Saji Narayan ji, Sri S. Malesham ji, Sri Atul Sobdi ji, Sri D. Bharat ji, and Sri Vinay Navre ji for their enlightening contributions which have made this event intellectually enriching and meaningful. My sincere thanks to the management and staff of Prime Minister Museum and Library Auditorium for their excellent arrangements, and to the members of the media for their presence. And most importantly, we thank the audience for your gracious presence and engagement. Thank you all. Namaste. Jai Hind. Now I request everyone to kindly rise for the national anthem. जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा। विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल चलती तरंगा। तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मागे। गाए सब जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय मातरम। I request everyone kindly let the guests to leave first, please.